Hey everybody, it's Dr. Laurie for one more episode. Don't go away. When I was 9 years old, I used to watch a show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and it was so cool because Mr. Rogers would come in the door and he would change from his business sport coat and he would put on this really comfortable sweater and these comfortable sneakers. And I was like, oh, Mr. Rogers is here. Sometimes we only recognize adults when they're in a certain uniform, like teachers or doctors. But sometimes adults want to come home and get comfortable too. So I'm going to change out of my uniform and get more comfortable also. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. And I'm so much more comfortable in this button-down shirt. So I think the fascinating thing about Mr. Rogers' show is he always used to take us around his neighborhood, and you got a really great chance to see where Mr. Rogers lived and all of his friends and the people that he used to interact with on a daily basis. Those were the people that were in his life. And I realized that we had some really great lessons between glorious goals and marvelous motivation, but aside from that, you don't know that much about me and where I'm from and how I grew up. So I thought today would be really special if we take a moment and just kind of go back in my life, and I'll show you how I grew up. So when I was a little boy, I first started having a passion for music when I was probably as young as 3 years old. And I remember when I was little one night, I should have been in bed and sleeping, and I remember hearing this really amazing sound. And it was my mother playing the piano, and I crawled out of bed and I peeked my head around the corner and I saw my mom sitting there playing the piano, and it was so amazing to me. I was like, what is this beautiful music? And I walked over and she said, Judd, what are you doing out of bed? And I said, I want to listen to the music. And I sat on her lap and my mom showed me a couple songs, and it was so great because at that moment I was connected to music forever. It was so amazing. And for a long time when I was growing up, it's difficult to play certain instruments until your hands get a little bit bigger. But as I got bigger, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, when I'm your age right now, I really started liking some different types of music like rock and roll, and I started getting some favorite bands that I was interested in listening to all the time, and I wanted to play those songs that I heard on the radio. So keyboard for me, which is like a piano, but a synthesizer, lets you play a variety of different instruments through keys. So I could play a piano or synthesizer sounding things, or a trumpet or a flute or a guitar, or lots of different types of instruments and different kind of sound effects. And I really enjoyed putting all of these musical instruments together and really recreating all of these songs that I heard on the radio. And music for me was very much like learning different patterns. And I would look at the keys and I realized what keys should go with what other keys in the combination. And those are basically called chords. And I also learned the tempo and the timing of how quickly I should play the notes or how softly, and also what the left hand does on the keyboard and also what the right hand does on the keyboard. And as I got older, I realized that, my musical abilities need to leave the house, and I can't take the piano with me, so I need something that's a little more portable. And that was the first time that I really started guitar, and that was probably around the age of maybe 14 or 15 years old in 8th grade, and I played a guitar. I was like, this is great because I can take a guitar outside of the house and I can play music wherever I am. And then I really started getting into rock and roll, and I said, I need a guitar with some distortion and lots of effects pedals. And so then I started getting into some electric guitar and some really loud noise with some different amplifiers. And then after the guitar came the bass. And I thought that the bass was really great to play because it was just such a cool instrument and play these really low thumping notes. And I always had admired the drums, but I thought that my parents wouldn't let me have drums in the house because they were so loud. And it turns out that I was correct. My parents wouldn't let me have drums in the house. I probably asked a million times and it was just too loud. So I always stuck with the keyboard and the guitar and the bass probably until my early 20s. That's probably about maybe 10 years later after I started. And then I went to college and I couldn't take those instruments with me because they're so big. You know, it would be hard. It would be like I needed a whole separate vehicle just to take my instruments along. So for a long time, I went without musical instruments. When I got older and when I got a house and when I got married and I started having my family, I always dreamt of that time when I sat on my mom's lap and she showed me how to play the piano. And I thought it would be so great if I could teach my son and my daughter how to play musical instruments and give that gift back to them. So that was always my goal, is to basically walk into my office, which is where we are now, and have a variety of musical instruments basically hanging on the wall, mandolins and ukuleles and bass. And I thought to myself, there's one instrument that's missing that I always wanted for my whole entire life, and that's the drums. So about a year ago, only a year ago, I started playing the drums, and I love it because up until this point, I would basically just play the drums, you know, with my hands in the air. It's called air drumming, and you know, there's air guitar and air keyboard, but I would play the air drums all the time, and all of my friends would laugh at me because they knew how excited the drums made me get when I heard, you know, this rock and roll music. So I finally started playing the drums and I got a set. So one of the lessons that I want to tell you is, number one, when you're growing up, if you have dreams, follow those dreams forever. It's never too late to begin something. And number two, if you want to play something like drums, you might have to wait until you're a little bit older, but someday you need to follow those dreams. And it doesn't have to be music. You could be interested in photography or writing stories or anything. So just follow those dreams. To take you into my neighborhood and to show you the area where I live, that's Buffalo, New York, and it's in the west end of New York State. And we're right on the Great Lakes. We're right at the eastern end of Lake Erie. And the Great Lakes are the largest source of freshwater lakes in the entire world. And it just happens to be that we live very close. And when I was growing up, I used to do water skiing, and I used to have these trick skis that I could spin all the way around. And to me, water skiing in the summertime was such a blast. I would go out with my family. It was such a great day to be able to go out on the boat and do these kind of things. And I'm going to get my son and my daughter into water skiing soon. In the wintertime around Buffalo, you do a lot of snow skiing, and that was always so much fun. So in New York, we have wintertime and summertime, very distinct, very, very cold winters and nice, warm, comfortable summers. And in the summertime, I really enjoy gardening. And in the summertime now, I have a beautiful garden with my son because when I was growing up, I used to have a garden with my father, and I used to love just working in the garden with him and picking the vegetables and doing so many different fun things with him that I wanted to do that stuff with my son, who is also your age. And my daughter too loves it. She loves to go out there and pick fresh food, and it's so much fun for the entire family. The next thing that we have in Buffalo are some really beautiful natural resources. We have hills, we have some small mountains, and we also have Niagara Falls, New York, and it is so beautiful. Niagara Falls in the wintertime gets covered over with beautiful snow and these large ice formations, and then in the summertime, oh, the water's nice and blue, and it is so beautiful to see all of the green land around the water falling down, and we really enjoy going up there a lot in the summer. So I hope that gives you a little more information about my musical background and the way that I grew up and some of my interests. And I want to give you these few parting messages and words of advice. When you're going through life is going to be challenging at times. It's going to be difficult. So you need to remember that nobody's perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. You want to really reach out and talk to the people that are around you because they can help guide you through life. Your teachers and your guidance counselors and your parents. And the other thing is, life is very much about having a positive attitude. If you have a positive attitude and you can smile at other people, they will want to smile back. Just imagine yourself if you're walking down the street and you see somebody that's really grumpy and you look at them and they might frown at you, you probably might get scared of them. But if you smile at that person and that person looks back and they see a boy or a girl smiling, they'll probably smile back at you too. So number one, use your beautiful smiles to go out and light up the world. It's important to start being nice to people now because it's a great habit to learn as you get older. Being nice and having a positive attitude in life can get you so far. And, you know, I think that it's been so great to work with you and Elaine and to do these videos because not only have I been able to deliver these messages to you, but I've heard all of the messages and the questions come back to me from Elaine. And thank you so much for appreciating these videos. I love doing them for you. And I hope you learned something. And I don't have a website yet, but if you want to keep in touch, maybe in a year or two, look for something like a juddlaurie.com. And please send me an email and let me know how you guys are doing because I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching these videos. I have had an absolute blast. Good luck with the rest of your school year. And I will look forward to talking to each and every one of you soon. Thank you so much.